Time for business. Sandra is here, and she has details of how the GRA is coping as a result of the fire that engulfed the
head office.
Yes. All right. You bring us the details.
Welcome to business. My name is Sandra Esinam Apeno. The Ghana Revenue Authority GRA has maintained Sunday's inferno at its Ring Road office did not result in loss of any data or cash belonging to the authority. Barely some 24 hours since the inferno, Joy Business's Charles Aite visited the next office of the GRA and has come through with this report.
Barely 24 hours since the large taxpayers' office at the Kwame Nkrumah Circle interchange got ravaged by fire. We're here at the head office of the Ghana Revenue Authority, where we're told arrangements have been made so far to cushion taxpayers against what happened over the weekend. First of all, we got in touch with the head of corporate affairs, the person Nana Brago Wusuansa, who helps us understand that backup systems have been put in place so that taxpayers' information is secured.
I mean, it is important that we start with the core operational staff because they will be dealing directly with the taxpayers. So even as I'm speaking with you, arrangements are still being made as to how we're going to deploy the rest of the staff. But they will be deployed to our offices within Accra. No money has been bent. Again, I also want to assure that no checks have been bent. So far, we have lost quite a number of things, talking about files, files, documents, etc. But fortunately, GRA has a very good backup system. And so it's just the hard copy that is gone. We have retrieved all our information concerning operational and then details on taxpayers, and work is ongoing. So far, our work has not been interrupted.
We had access to the various annexes that have been created in the wake of the fire disaster here at the head office, where we're going to be having the large taxpayers office and that's of the Kimbu CPA offices located here for taxpayers to have the transactions, the tax-paying transactions go on without any form of hitches. Of course, we've been speaking to Edward Jamra. He's the acting commissioner in charge of the large taxpayers office to help us understand what an impact the disaster has been, if indeed there has been, on the entire operations and whether or not it has burdened the workload there so far.
Today is off-peak period, so we don't have too much pressure on us. Normally we have pressure during our peak periods, and which is the 15th day of the month and the end of the month. And these days are very hectic periods for us. But today being the second the December is off the peak periods. So we haven't started feeling the heat yet, and we hope we'll be able to get our acts together before the peak period, the next peak period comes.
What do you need
so,
to get your acts together?
So far what we've done is that we've done the arrangement to get the officers seated to start working.
So far, the Ghana Revenue Authority has indicated that what happened at the Kwame Nkrumah Circle interchange regarding the LTO office has nothing to do with tax revenue mobilization in terms of its impact, and that everything has been put in place, all measures have been put in place to ensure that the information of taxpayers are secured and that entire transactions are moved on smoothly in the coming days. I'm Charles Aite reporting for Joy Business.
Government has released 40 million cedis to support efforts by the private sector to help bridge the housing deficit. The fund, made available to some selected banks in the country, is to cushion the private sector developers. Deputy Minister of Finance Charles Edubuahin disclosed this at the opening of the Ghana Affordable Housing Finance Forum in Accra.
Ghana as a country needs about 2 million housing units to be able to bridge the housing gap, which has been a major source of concern for many in the country. Minister for Finance Ken Ofori-Atta in the 2019 budget statement announced some measures undertaken by government to deal with the situation. According to Deputy Finance Minister Charles Edubuahin, funds have been made available for some selected banks at a very low interest rate as government support towards mortgage financing.
Government, in its quest to develop a vibrant mortgage and housing finance ecosystem, has set up a mortgage and housing finance fund to make local currency mortgage and construction finance cheaper in partnership with the banks. The objective is to deepen a mortgage and housing delivery pillar of the financial system. Government has released an amount of 40 million cedis, which would leverage additional private sector funds of 40 million from pensions. Government releases money at much lower interest rates to be able to allow the banks to lend at much lower rates by, leveraging this cheaper funding. So the banks match our funding on a one-to-one basis. They do the credit evaluation and manage the mortgage.
Meanwhile, Minister for Works and Housing Samuel Atachia is inviting more investors to further contribute to the funds provided by government to support affordable housing. According to him, state funds alone cannot cater for the housing needs of a country.
Because, like I was having a tete-a-tete with my friend Adubuahin before we came in here. The national kitty is so limited and oversubscribed that we can never use that medium to address the issue of housing finance.
A two-day conference by the Department of Land Economy of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology and the IFC seeks to provide opportunity for stakeholders to come up with proposals in dealing with the housing deficit. Ebenezer Sabutis reports for Joy Business.
The Energy Minister, John Peter Amewo, has hinted of plans to encourage more exploratory activities in the petroleum upstream sector, known as the Upstream Blueprint. The new set of guidelines, according to the minister, when implemented, will increase Ghana's chance of discovering more oil. He spoke to Joy Business at this year's Ghana Energy Awards, organized in Accra. Bismarck Awusa has more.
According to the Energy Minister, John Peter Amewo, the Upstream Blueprint is part of commitment to driving growth in the petroleum sector. He believes there are more prospects for the sector.
To be able to increase exploratory activity, we must allow operators of the field to hold on to some of the acreages that hitherto would have been relinquished. The initial framework was that after your POD approval, you need to relinquish some of the sections. But they always see at the view that if they held on to those sections, they can still do a further exploratory activities. And it is only through exploratory activities that you can find oil. But if they leave it out, then it means that you are reducing the intensity of exploratory activity. So what we have done now is to design this Upstream Blueprint.
Mr. Amewu says the blueprint will be implemented before end of the year.
By doing so, we need to review the regulations, which currently we've done. It's in Parliament. It has to stay there for 21 days, after which it becomes very effective.
So hopefully by next year it should be effective?
Yes, precisely. Even this year, I mean, we have done about 5 days already. So by the close of getting closer to December ending.
The Energy Minister received Exemplary Leadership Award, one of many awards given at the 2019 Ghana Energy Awards.
Hello again and welcome back to Business. The new 100, 200 notes, banknotes and 2 cedi coin are now available to the public. Last Friday, the Central Bank introduced the new denominations as legal tender. Judge Rafi has details of how these denominations will be rolled out.
According to the Bank of Ghana, the issuance of these notes would, however, be based on the commercial banks drawing down on their balances with the central bank. First Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Maxwell Opoku-Afari, has been given more details on how the issuance will be done.
Systems are being calibrated as we speak now, and the banks will start getting these species moved to their various branches starting from next week, Monday.
But some will say that it will also be a demand base because it's not. Do I get from you demand base?
Because not everybody who is going to use the 100 or the 200 Ghana cedis for transactions immediately. But we also recognize that once it's new and it's very beautiful, I don't know whether you've seen it, everybody wants to see a copy. So you have an initial jump in demand, not just for transaction, but just to appreciate this very beautiful note. And so that is also being taken care of. But yes, you are right. It will be a demand base as to how many people want to demand that, because as I said, it's mostly going to store value and also for high value transactions.
Meanwhile, the first deputy governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Maxwell Opoku-Afari, has been reacting to high inflation rate concerns, fears that these monies are being printed to aid election year overrun.
Issuing new family of notes does not contribute to inflation. That's not what it does. Issuing new family of notes gives options to ensure ability to be able to pay for transactions, degree of exchangeability. When you issue an amount of money, you'll be able to get change for it. But it does not add, because the value of the currency is intrinsic, right? It does not add to inflation in the sense that because you have a higher denomination, prices are going to go up.
Meanwhile, the Ghana Association of Bankers says it welcomes the new currency denominations. According to the association, its action will help reduce the transactional cost of banks. President of the association, Alhansa Adani, spoke to my colleague, Bismarck Awusa, in an interview.
It's easy to understand what they're trying to achieve. When we redenominated the currency and introduced these new notes, a high circulating note, which was, I think, the 50 cedi note, was approximated to about $50. So that was a kind of measure they used, $50 down. Now, if we look at movements from that time till to date, the 50 cedi note is less than a fifth of a dollar, a fifth of what the $50 was. So 50 cedi note is now almost less than $10. So it would look like they're just trying to regain lost ground in terms of the equivalence in currency that was issued. As the cedi has depreciated, particularly for foreigners who come into Ghana, you still see them carrying bags of currency, and you want to eliminate the use of, carrying such large volumes of money.
So eliminating the use of currencies, don't you think the Bank of Ghana itself is opposed to its quest to achieve a cash-light society?
Oh yes, I don't think the introduction of these notes in any way sets back the clock in terms of Cashlight. Our clients are desiring it. Electronic payment systems are making things easier. E-money is going to be issued. So it's not going to stop us moving to Cashlight.
According to Forbes magazine, 9 out of every 10 startups in Africa collapse over time, citing the lack of viable products and business ideas as major causes. As a way of supporting budding entrepreneurs, the Cosmos Innovation Center is organizing a 3-day boot camp to equip young women with basic skills for entrepreneurship. Karen Dodo has more in this report.
From different walks of life, these women have been attracted by their common goal to start a purpose-driven business idea. Although some came with half-baked business ideas, others were ready with blank sheets, ready to be inspired. The main goal of the various topics treated was to see the participants create business ideas by thinking from the perspective of the consumer. Several ideas from different sectors of the economy were espoused by the various teams. Dr. Gordon Adumja is coach for the workshop. He explained that for startups to stay relevant, their business ideas must be solution-driven.
If you're building a business, you have to make sure that you're solving a real problem, because otherwise then failure comes very quickly. So we took them back to the problems they're trying to solve, and then took them through some processes that you use in design thinking, in exploring problem spaces and mapping out problems that people have, and then identifying the gaps that pop up so you can build a strong, sustainable business fulfilling those gaps.
After several minutes of brainstorming in groups, the ladies were given the chance to model their business ideas using cardboards and other stationery and pitch to their fellow participants.
How might we help our coalition manage her monthly message with a solution that is cost-effective and readily accessible?
Over here is the various stakeholders that FarmCare, which is us, is going to speak to. The stakeholders are the investors, real estate companies, the chiefs, so that we are going to get the land directly from the chiefs.
So the first lesson so far have helped me to think outside the box, how I can bring other people, actors on board, work in a team and make my work successful, as well as impacting change in other people's lives.
Although we are not done, I can say that my entrepreneur skills, my leadership skills, it's kind of shaping. it's a work in progress.
The motive behind the workshop organized by the Cosmos Innovation Center is not only to prepare the women for their businesses, but also as a channel to invite more women into the upcoming KIC Agritech Challenge. Asu Olsen Apia is a programs officer at the KIC.
So we are doing this KIC Women's Bootcamp because we want to be able to attract more women to the programs that we run at the Cosmos Innovation Center, primarily the Agritech Challenge. So we are hoping that through this program, the women who are trained here would have a first-hand experience of what we are doing to train and support and invest in entrepreneurs in the agribusiness or agri space in Ghana, so that they can become ambassadors for what we do, encourage more women to apply into our programs. And we are also looking at broadening the scope and broadening some of the things that we look at in the KIC program to also attract more women into what we are doing.
The workshop, which will run for 3 days, will tackle various areas of entrepreneurship. For Joy Business, Karen Dood.
Thanks so much for joining me on Business Tonight. There's more news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business.